So, British politics' very own house Negro, Kemi, who
black faces in high places are the perfect tools of white supremacy. I give you Kemi, aka not bad enough.
Today's episode of Leopards Eating the Faces of Conservatives, we have Kemi. And
whether you're disabled or otherwise, anybody can be used as a tool of white supremacy if they...
This isn't about protecting Britain. This is about climbing the ladder and pulling it up behind her.
So, British politics' very own house Negro, Kemi, who presents herself as the staunchest defender of British interests, just got a reality check when she tried to take credit for UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's recent cut to foreign aid to find money for defense. Starmer, no beacon of integrity himself, and in true British tradition of tactful insults, took the opportunity to remind her that she is not one of them. Take a look.
Over the weekend, I suggested to the Prime Minister that he cut the aid budget, and I am pleased that he accepted my advice.
I'm going to have to let the Leader of the Opposition down gently. She didn't feature in my thinking at all. I was so busy over the weekend I didn't even see her proposal. I think she's appointed herself, savior of the Western civilization. It's a desperate search for relevance.
So, sister, just like we've told you before, regardless of how hard you ride for British values and how loudly you proclaim your strong will to die protecting the British crown, you will not be viewed as anything more than an eager servant. Because being in the house doesn't mean you have an equal seat at the table. So you might want to consider returning to the fields where we are not disillusioned.
People, when we tell you that some black faces in high places are the perfect tools of white supremacy, I give you Kemi, aka not bad enough, the first black British Conservative Party leader, the racial gatekeeping extraordinaire, whose unique selling point is to throw black people and her country of origin, Nigeria, under the bus at every given opportunity in order to prop herself up to white British people as, I'm really one of you. It's an accident of birth that I came out black, but I'm really white on the inside. Here she is in the House of Commons, Parliament no less, complaining about a Palestinian family of 6 who've been given refuge in the United Kingdom under a scheme created for Ukrainians. You know, white people. Listen in.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative government established the Ukraine Family Scheme. And in total, over 200,000 Ukrainians, mostly women, children and the elderly, have found sanctuary in the UK from Putin's war.
Okay, good.
However, a family of 6 from Gaza have applied to live in Britain using this scheme.
Good.
And a judge has now ruled in their favour.
Excellent.
This is not what the scheme was designed to do.
Did you hear that?
This decision is completely wrong. It cannot be allowed to stand.
Unacceptable.
Is the government planning to appeal on any points of law? And if so, which ones?
Kemi is basically saying that we, the British people, can give refuge to over 200,000 Ukrainians to come here, but we cannot give refuge to a family of 6 Palestinians from Gaza. Why? Because Ukrainians are white. So we can give Ukrainians right to work, right to live, access to the health service, access to benefits, but we can't give Palestinians the same rights and benefits. Why? Because Ukrainians are white. Kemi said, this cannot stand. This is wrong. This is not what the scheme was created for. And out of this mouthpiece of white supremacy, you hear the truth. That the system is not broken. It is working exactly as it should, which is to discriminate, to exclude, to be institutionally, structurally, and systemically racist. And Kemi knows that Britain is responsible for arming, aiding, abetting, supporting Israel's genocide of Palestinians, Israel's commission of crimes against humanity of Palestinians in both West Bank and Gaza, and that we are partly responsible for Israel's devastation of Gaza. So we actually owe Palestinians refuge. We owe them that. But that can't happen because Palestinians are not white. And Israel, Zionist Israel, is Britain's ally. And we all know that Zionism is white supremacy. No outrage when Ukrainians leave their war-torn country to come and benefit from a system here they've not worked for, but there's outrage when black and brown people leave their war-torn countries to come here seeking refuge. White supremacy exemplified.
In today's episode of Leopards Eating the Faces of Conservatives, we have Kemi Badenoch, and I'm going to show you 3 clips, all of which happened in the last 20 days, in which Kemi Badenoch breeds a face-eating leopard. That leopard then eats her face, and then she complains about the leopard eating her face.
Statutory maternity pay. It is a function of tax. Tax comes from people who are working. We're taking from one group of people and giving to another. This, in my view, is excessive. There wasn't any maternity pay, and people were having more babies. We need to make sure.
Well, that's because women often had to not work. They had to stay at home. So
now, if you are arguing for lower maternity pay and even suggesting that it was a good thing when there was no maternity pay and that women should have more kids, then you are literally arguing to make it harder for women to engage in the world of work, which is the kind of thing you would expect to hear from a conservative politician like Christopher Chope yesterday.
I myself am supporting Robert Jenrick because I think he's brought more energy and commitment to the campaign, and being leader of the opposition is a really demanding job. And much as I like Kemi, I think she's preoccupied with her own children, quite understandably. But I think Robert's children are a bit older, and I think that it's important that whoever leads the opposition has got an immense amount of time and energy.
Sorry, Christopher, can I just clarify that? You're saying that a woman shouldn't be standing to be leader of a political party?
Kemi spends a lot of time with her family, which I don't resent at all. But the consequence of it is that you can't spend all your time with your family as at the same time being leader of the opposition.
Bear in mind, if the government funded childcare properly and funded and encouraged dads taking time off to raise the kids, this would be less of an issue. But Kemi Badenoch is specifically against that kind of government intervention.
This is one of the principles that I'm fighting this leadership contest on. There is too much government. Every time there is an issue or someone has a question, the answer cannot be, well, let's help the government help people to have babies.
And so last night, during the debate where Kemi Badenoch is trying to become the leader of the Conservative Party, this happened.
Your colleague, Christopher Chope, is in the news today, isn't he? He said that you are preoccupied with your children, arguing that it's impossible to be the party leader and a mum. Can you do both jobs?
Of course you can. I love my children. I have the most beautiful children in the world. I want to spend as much time with them as possible. I said to all of you that family was one of my key principles. I know it is for everyone in this room. Family is important. We have to live by our principles. I was able to be a great business secretary and trade secretary and equalities minister, effectively doing 3 jobs while balancing my home life. If I can do that, I can do this too.
Kemi Badenoch is on £84,000 a year, plus expenses and donations, so she can afford childcare and isn't as reliant on maternity pay as most parents. But back to the main point. So Kemi Badenoch used the traditional conservative argument that would make it harder for women to engage in the world of work. One of her conservative colleagues then used that argument to try to deny her the job that she's trying to get, and now she's complaining that we're supposedly a modern society and therefore women should have rights. People like her are going to make Francesca Ramsey a millionaire.
Kemi Badenoch is now leader of the Conservative Party. For those who don't know, the Conservative Party is the more right-wing political party in Britain. Now, the thing is, I find it really interesting, but wait, also, Badenoch, what is that? Baden, or is it Baden? Baden, is that to bathe, and a knock is nighttime. So is her name like Kemi Bath Night or Kemi Bath Time? I don't know. It's a name that, obviously she got when she married her husband. Her husband's the managing director of Deutsche Bank, by the way, which is really, really interesting because you're going to have a particular amount of money behind you. Like, you can have all the right-wing rhetoric that you want, but you're going to have a significant amount of money behind you for you to pull off certain political stunts. And I think it's important to note that anybody can be used as a tool of white supremacy. It doesn't matter your color, your gender, your sexuality, whether you're disabled or otherwise. Anybody can be used as a tool of white supremacy if they are willing to play along. Or not even sometimes if they're actively, consciously willing, you can still unconsciously participate in white supremacy. This is what people like to call sometimes unconscious bias, which is why it's BS. But the Labour Party, that's meant to be the more left-leaning, the left-wing political party in the UK, to date, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't be knowing things sometimes. Correct me if I'm wrong, also getting to my nails. Ow. But they haven't to date, the Labour Party hasn't to date had a woman leader of that party. And they definitely haven't had, they haven't had a black woman leader. And of course, we know that not all skin folk are kinfolk. I've recently directed a play called Why a Black Woman Would Never Be Prime Minister, written by Zakia Dean. And there's a line that the protagonist says where she says, just because there's a black woman in power doesn't mean that we rate her. So there'll be some people, because they're so focused on, it doesn't matter if a black woman gets a great place in hell helping Satan. This is so amazing for us. This is progress for us all. Because remember, when we weren't allowed to do this, that and the other. Not all representation is good representation. In fact, sometimes being represented in certain places guarantees harm to those people who look like the person that's now representing them. So I just think that, it's important to note these things. But at the same time, why haven't the Labour Party, why haven't we seen a woman lead the Labour Party? Why haven't we seen a black woman lead the Labour Party? These are all questions I wonder. And again, I say, why haven't we had a woman? But the women that could potentially be up for running as Labour Party leader, namely Angela Rayner, and what's that other one that I can't stand? Jess Phillips. They've said things that really bother me about what they would do regarding black people if they were actually in power. So again, I'm so conflicted at this time. I'm not making this video like I've got answers. I'm just telling you, hey guys, I'm conflicted. This is throwing me. This is another representation of why two-party political systems don't actually work, because they give you these false binaries, these false dichotomies that it's either this or that, as if there can't be other options, because both of these options aren't great. What the Labour Party is currently doing is not great. What the Conservative Party could do if they ever got back in power and had another stint also would not be great. Kemi is the same person that said that the transatlantic slave trade wasn't that bad, and there was some good to come from it, and also colonialism, there was also some good to come from it, and also that Britain is the best place in the world to live for black people. She just says things. And I don't know why she does it, but I worry for her. She is, to me, dedicated to being a handmaiden of Beelzebub, but that's another story. And I don't think if we want to speak sense into Kemi, we can't call her Kemi Badenoch. We have to go back to her original name, Kemi Olukemi Adegoke. Find sense and move accordingly, because we're not going to tolerate the nonsense.
Kemi Badenoch is only British because her mother came here while pregnant. That same rule doesn't exist today, and now she is the one that wants to make immigration harder. The hypocrisy is insane. Badenoch's mother came to the UK while pregnant. Because of the laws at the time, Kemi was automatically a British citizen. That law doesn't exist anymore. If Kemi was born today, she would not even be British herself. And now she's pushing for immigration rules that would make it harder for families like hers to settle here.
Of course, not all cultures are equally valid. I don't believe in cultural relativism.
She wants to extend the residency requirement from 5 years to 10 years and ban them from permanent residency if they've ever needed social housing or benefits.
Particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
People very, very poor.
So let's be real, if her mother came here under the rules that she's supporting, would Kemi even be here herself? This isn't about protecting Britain. This is about climbing the ladder and pulling it up behind her. She's not fixing immigration. She's just making sure nobody else gets the chances in life that she did.